Sorry about that.
Thank you. Good evening, it's Thursday, January 8th. This is a meeting of Council Rock School District Board of School Directors, Facilities Committee. I'm chairing this evening. Ed Tate will go around the table, starting to my right for a roll call.
Cheryl Rickert, School Board.
Christian Ola, IT Department.
Nicole Khan, School Board.
Tracy Osecki, School Board.
Ann Horner, School Board.
Joe Hidalgo, School Board.
Michael Roosevelt, School.
Andy Sanko, Superintendent.
Tony Rapp, Director of Business Administration.
Jessica Binda, Supervisor of Facilities.
Jim Green, School Board.
Linda Stone, School Board.
Thank you. We have 4 items on the agenda, and after those 4, we will have public comment. Ms. Binder, would you start us, please?
Thank you. As a reminder to our community to use, this is a reminder to our community to use only Council Rock School District resources, websites, and official social media platforms for the most reliable, up-to-date information about our district. We urge the public to verify information on social media and be discerning where they obtain information related to Council Rock. If you question what you're seeing, need clarification, or want a reliable fact check, please contact the district directly. Our contact information is available on our website at crsd.org. Agenda items for this evening are the purchase of playground equipment for Goodnoe, Welsh, Rolling Hills, and Churchville Elementary Schools. Okay, I'm just making sure that we separated two. Okay, sorry. Natural gas supply agreement, the Council Rock High School South Stadium Architectural Design Services and Construction Management Services. First item is the purchase of playground equipment for Goodnoe, Welsh, Rolling Hills, and Churchville Elementary Schools. This is the purchase of playground structures and independent play components. As a reminder, about 2 years ago, we did the first set of playgrounds that were not renovated with under construction. So these are the remaining 4 schools to finish the renovations off. The proposal pricing is per the PA CoStars agreement with General Recreation, Inc. This is the same vendor that we used at the previous 3 schools. Then we'd like to pre-purchase the equipment to ensure a mid-June delivery to the installing contractor. The installing contractor bids will be presented at the April Facilities Committee meeting. They should go out to bid roughly end of January, so by the time we get pricing and get them everything back and into your hands, it'll be in April. Each school does include the communication board as we have done at all the other schools. And it does include the shade structure for Churchville Elementary. The total.
Can I just add real quick?
Absolutely.
Real quick, the shade structure at Churchville and Elementary will be donated by the Churchville PTO. So we thank them for that.
Great.
What was that? What school was that?
The Churchville Elementary PTO is donating the shade structure for their playground.
That's it.
The total equipment material cost is $460,955.
Mr. Hidalgo.
Thank you. I'd gotten some emails, I think we all, the administrative guidance emails regarding the structure from the,
Yes.
leadership. Everything's squared away now, as
Yes.
far as that's concerned?
Yes.
Okay, with this passing of this, okay, thanks.
Roosevelt.
Tracy's first.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, I know we did the other elementary school playgrounds a while back. I'm wondering what, if any differences in equipment or size there are at the different schools, and also cost, if you don't mind comparing what it's going to cost per playground, and maybe, some schools are bigger than others.
So each school roughly 3.5, 4 years ago was evaluated by T&M. They are a playground engineering firm, if you will.
All 10 elementary schools, when you say each school?
I believe it was all 10 elementary schools. Okay, They did a survey and they made recommendations at all 10 elementary schools. Some schools like Richboro Elementary, they had the kindergarten and then they had like the upper grades, we'll call it. The upper grades was a complete removal and replacement, so during construction, we did that. Schools like Rolling Hills that has recently had the renovation, recently by, 2019, I think. So they have a reduced amount of equipment in this. We just replaced a slide through the maintenance budget, but there's a couple pieces of equipment that we're going to be replacing. There's one that's broken that we're pulling out and putting a piece in, and then there was a couple chill spinner things that we're putting in to kind of just refresh. Churchville, in the back one, we're putting in some equipment, but the major play piece stays because it's still in good shape and still usable. The kindergarten one that's in the front is only getting a couple chill spinners. And I don't mean only, but their equipment is newer and in good shape. If you go to Goodnow, that equipment is beyond its useful life, so it's going to be a full replacement. So obviously that price is going to be a lot higher than, say, Rolling Hills. So while nothing is the same, and I do not encourage the schools to have the same, we have made recommendations to the principals and worked with them to kind of finalize the design on what makes sense for their school. For instance, Goodnow is going to have a bit of a bigger structure because their population is the total number of kids there is bigger, so there's more number of kids playing on that equipment at one time. So you want to make sure that they're sized properly for the number of kids that's going to be there during recess.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Roosevelt.
I'm sorry, let me just add one thing. The one thing I do want to highlight that is the same throughout is this communication board. The teachers of the programs that use those really like the one that General Recreation has, so that's the one that we've been continuing to use.
Great. Mr. Roosevelt.
Thank you. Ms. Binda's information in response to Ms. Osecki resolved my question, so I'm all good.
Sorry, I have another. I was going to wait for him.
This is wonderful.
We've had feedback from the community about fencing at playgrounds, or particularly at the playgrounds that house some of our populations at different schools. I know that the administration has been a little hesitant for that, but is this a good time to do, if we're going to put in fencing, now is the time, or how do we feel about that?
We've considered the fencing requests that we've received, and we've, looked at the recommendations that we received, and from an administrative standpoint, I think our thought process has been that the fencing that's being asked for would be more of a problem than it would cause more problems than it would solve, and that it would. Part of the purpose of these playgrounds is to be inclusive, and putting fencing up around them makes them not inclusive. So that's one of the reasons, and we're putting two playgrounds, and one of the recommendations is to separate a playground with equipment for special needs students from the other playground area. So we want to avoid that kind of thing. So we want it also to be accessible to the public. And while we sympathize with people with concerns, we do have staff that is there to make sure that the distance between any hazards at some of these playgrounds is pretty far, substantial. So.
Thank you.
Good.
So you mentioned that these were planned for a while to finish out the renovations at the elementary schools. Is this this cost estimate that we received in line with what had been budgeted and planned in the past, above or below?
Great question. Absolutely in line.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Kine?
Sorry, from the previous meeting. I know we spoke about it a little bit, but there would also probably be some differences based upon the population. So for example, Goodnow, in the previous playground, we talked about being accessible for our special needs population and, you know, whether their challenges are mobility. So those will also account for some of the differences in pricing for such, right? That
Yes.
That
inclusive
Yes.
play aspect,
Yes, and then the grounding was different too, like they had to be able to wheel versus using mulch.
Yes.
I know we talked about.
So
that
the
previous.
big one that we really focused on was, 2 summers ago, was Newtown Elementary, because they had the MDS program, the multiple disability program. We made sure that the wheelchairs, like there was poured in place around one of the, I don't know what the proper name is. Basically, it's a spinny thing. You can wheel the wheelchair in, lock the wheelchair in place, and then it kind of spins around. And then there's also other kids that can go on it. So it's a very inclusive piece of equipment. We made that particular piece of equipment, while very expensive, and the poured in place is extremely expensive, it was important that we had that. So Goodnow, we have the chill spinner things that all the kids love these things, because you can either chill on it and just kind of sit and move around, wiggle a little bit, or you can put your friend in it and spin them around really fast. So we have absolutely incorporated that kind of equipment at all of our schools, because it does help with even students who are just, you know, if you're just not feeling good that day, you just need a place to hang out. You still want to be with your friends, but you don't want to be running around. So we made sure that we have plenty of that type of equipment.
Can I ask a
Yes.
follow-up? So a follow-up to that, due to our recent student population this year at specifically Richboro Elementary and so Finestone, would there need to be any adjustments since we have those additional autistic support students, especially the little ones with a greater number of students
Yeah,
enrollment?
so our AS program did expand all of the playgrounds regardless of what school if we need to, and Jess will have to give a little bit better explanation, but all of the playgrounds, the equipment that's being installed is handicap accessible, and we could purchase and add pieces. Am I correct in that, Jess, or not?
No, so while the playgrounds are all handicap accessible, we do not, we focused when we made wheelchair accessible, wheelchair inclusive equipment. When we have that population at that school, we focused money towards that.
Got it.
So we have swings that are handicap accessible, that you can transfer the child into, or if they can walk, but they don't have the support in a typical swing, they have like the chairs. So we do have modifications, and we did make planning that, you know, if we do need to move that program for any reason in the future, that's one thing that we would take into consideration, that we need to make sure that we have that type of equipment at that school.
So does it currently fulfill the needs for our AS population?
It does.
That has grown?
It does.
Both.
Yep. So when we had an inkling that it might happen when we were designing Richboro, so we made sure that that was incorporated. And then we also did, you know, kind of a brief discussion about what was available at Soul Finestone, and those items, there's play equipment for kids with disabilities there as well. So when there's movement of programs, that's one of the conversations is, you know, do we need, since we've taken over all of the playgrounds, do we need to make modifications? And, you know, just if we do have a student that is in our our student population that we need to make modifications for, then it's a conversation that we have to see what needs to be included.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jess.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm glad you did.
Good. Any more questions? Okay, so this will be on the agenda for,
Sorry, so these are gonna go in June? It's gonna start in June? Great, so it should be done over the summer?
Yes, yes. Barring no crazy monsoon seasons, it'll be back operational.
Unexpected, supply chain.
Yeah.
supply chain.
Yeah, supply chains, yeah. But again, since we are pre-purchasing it and handing it over to the contractor, has a better chance of it being on site and ready to go in June. Next is our natural gas supply agreement. Amorex Energy Services has assisted the district with the purchase of natural gas and electric supply for the last 8+ years. They monitor the pricing for natural gas and electric supply. They have experts on staff that this is what they do. I am by all means not an expert in this field. The 3-year natural gas supply agreement with UGI Energy Services, who would be the supplier, expired in December with a fixed rate of $4.57 per decatherm. The current rates have elevated when compared to the previous rate. Just like everything else in the world, it has gone up. So that price includes both supply and delivery. So if you look at even at home, your gas bill, there's 2 prices on there. There's a supply and the delivery. So January, this month, will be a floating price, and then Amorex will issue a bid to at least 3 supply companies for a fixed 3-year agreement for approval in February. So we did just receive word on the past couple days that the natural gas price, the supply price, has dropped drastically. It's dropped. It's been the lowest rate that it has in a number of months at least. So what we are asking tonight is permission to sign an agreement for the low price. December, beginning of December, it was at $4.33 a decatherm. It is now remember that price is both supply and delivery. So I'm talking just supply price. It was at $4.55 a decatherm. It dropped down to $3.12 a decatherm. So that is a significant savings. From what Vince from Amorex, who's our rep, has told me is that it's dropping because of trading. It has nothing to do with the weather. Again, I'm not an expert in trading in that world, so I have to rely on our professional. And so what we are asking is that if we could discuss with Vince and get the lowest possible price, because if we wait until, I think it's the 22nd, the price could start to elevate. And then, working with the business office, signing an agreement, and then bringing it to the board for final approval so that we can lock in this low price.
So you want permission tonight to proceed with the agreement, and then we approve it?
Now I know this is not how we typically do things, but because the price has dropped drastically over the last month, there's a lot of nervousness that it spikes back up depending on what happens in the world in the next 2 weeks.
Yes, but we've done this kind of thing in the past.
Yes.
The board has authorized the administration to proceed with something.
Yes.
For subsequent approval. Okay. All right, we'll go around the table. I saw Mr. Green first.
How much do you anticipate that you'll save with that much of a drop? How much total?
So
over the 3 years?
I don't have an answer because I have to look at the number that's behind this screen.
Okay.
Are we okay if I switch over?
I can hide it.
Okay, thank you.
Let me do that. All right,
Everybody look away.
I just didn't want,
It's not being streamed to YouTube like that.
so this is the graph where it's dropping.
Price?
Yeah. Let me see if he has the number on here, the usage. Rates, not the usage. I'm still, you still can't see this, right?
Nope.
Okay. I just don't want something to pop up here.
Can we keep going around?
Amazon shopping.
Try it.
maybe go to Ms. Stone next.
I was going to ask it, if you have a number from them, is there a lag time between signing the contract? If the price goes down again, will they give us the new lower price?
No,
We can lock in the price.
you lock in the
We're
price
locking
and
it in.
that's the price.
Okay.
We're more concerned that the price goes back up rather than,
We have to do this before the 22nd?
yes. Well, we don't know where the price is gonna go. I mean, that's a pretty, looking at prices, that's a pretty
Who sets these
low
prices?
price.
How
It's what
is
they're
it set?
traded at.
Is it a futures market?
It's a trade, so every day the numbers change?
Yes, yes.
If you want to look that up,
It's, what was it,
55.
455 minus 312. So,
And this is annually savings.
yeah,
Yes. So
3. So you're talking, what is that, $88,000 over the course of a year? Now, these are the numbers that we used in the last year. If we have colder temperatures, then the savings would go up.
88,000 you're saying is the usage?
No, that's the savings if we lock it in, if we locked it in December 1st or 2nd compared to now.
okay?
I'm good.
All right. Who's next?
Christian, you can.
All right.
No, my question was answered, thank you.
All right, Ms. Horner.
So that's 312 for supply, right? Delivery, have they given a cost for that?
He has not given me the cost, but it does not fluctuate as much as the supply. It's a pretty standard rate.
That hasn't changed.
Mm-mm. That, year over year, it might fluctuate up and down, but
That's the benefit of going out to bid, because
Okay.
that's gonna be.
I wanted to
they
make
can-
sure that
that's
there
the price
wasn't
that they
something on the
control.
backside for delivery that all of a sudden they was coming back to say, all right, we'll give you lower, it's lower here on the trade, we're gonna come back and,
The vendor controls
Delivery.
that price, so
That's why I'm
we
asking
end up,
that.
we could
Yeah.
end up,
that's why I'm asking that, yeah.
yeah, so he'll go out to the UGI, Constellation, I forget what the third big one is in this area. But yes, then we go with, right now we have UGI, but if Constellation comes in lower, then we would go with them.
Got it.
Could you just talk about, since we're talking about the pricing of this gas and maybe why we want to fix the price in the $88,000 per year, savings over 3 years potentially, what we use the natural gas for to heat?
So we use it for heating all of our buildings throughout the district,
All buildings.
all buildings.
For-
All buildings except for Sulphine Stone and Twining Ford,
What do we use for those?
propane.
Okay.
And we go out to bid once a year for the propane rate. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Other questions?
Just,
Mr. Rhodes?
yeah, just to clarify here, so the administration is asking for preemptive approval for this, but you're gonna end up locking in the rate. We're not gonna allow for a rate to float.
Correct.
And then that rate is gonna be inclusive of delivery as well as material. What is the date that these three companies, their bids are due back to the company that we deal with?
So they
Right.
release a price every day, from my understanding. So when we call Vince tomorrow and I say, what is the price for these three companies? And he comes back to say UGI is the lowest today, then we lock in with UGI.
Okay, and then if it continues to go down, oh, well, we miss out, but if it goes back up.
Then we look like heroes.
And at the moment, it's 88K a year or 88K every 3 years?
That's a year. That would be the savings for a year. First, December 1st, first now.
Okay. Thanks.
If there are no other questions, are there no objections? Hearing none, it'll be on the agenda for the 26th. Thank you.
Can I ask
Yeah.
what DTH is again?
Decatherm,
Decatherm.
Decatherm, okay.
the unit of measurement
that
for
explains it.
natural gas.
I don't need any more details.
Learn something.
I know how to
every-
Google.
Every board meeting.
Okay, thank you guys. The next one is the Council Rock High School South Stadium Phase 2 renovations. So just a reminder of the scope of work. It's the addition of permanent 3,000 seat aluminum bleachers, press box, ticket booth, toilet rooms, team rooms, and concessions. The total project budget range is $7.45 million to $7.63 million. For the architectural design services, 11 firms attended the mandatory pre-proposal conference and walkthrough. The district received 8 proposal submissions from firms. 2 firms were invited to the presentation interview process. For the architectural design services, the recommended selection is Murata Main. Again, that's the architect that is doing Chancellor. For the architectural design fees of $540,000. And for the construction management services, 7 firms attended the mandatory pre-proposal conference and walkthrough. District received 4 proposal submissions from firms. 2 firms were invited to the presentation interview process. The recommended selection is Boyle Construction, who is the same firm that was approved for Chancellor, Newtown, and Holland Middle, Newtown Elementary and Holland Middle. The construction management fees would be $313,700.
Just to add real quick to that, there was a stringent interview process for both of these bids. It was a group made up of facilities, personnel, and the principals for each of this, for the principal for South and the assistant principal /athletic director.
Great. Okay, Ms. Rick?
I have a few parts question. So the first, what is the timing for when this project would be done?
So we would go into design, and the reason why the design process is so long is because of the permitting. So the design process would take approximately a year, and then the construction process would take about 6 to 9 months, depending on what materials we select. We obviously would work with the school to decide when is the best time. Is the best time to start in April and then finish, before school starts, or is it best to do it June through December? So we would obviously work with the school to determine that process as well.
Okay, thank you. And then the other piece is, do we have an understanding of what ongoing maintenance costs are and operational costs are for a stadium of this size, and any comparisons from North or others?
So the cost would be similar to North. With a stadium this size, there's not, I don't want to say there's no cost, because there is cost. Obviously, the turf is the biggest cost, but we're not replacing the turf with this project.
Okay.
So there's general upkeep, depending on what type of bleachers and press box we use. There could be, typical painting, roofing, that kind of stuff. If we do a, prefab, I'm getting too much into the weeds, but if we do a prefab aluminum, there's a lot less maintenance. Bathrooms, where they get located, what type of bathrooms we have, there's, some cost to it. But, I think the life expectancy could be 20, 30 years, depending on how long, what products we use, what materials we use, that kind of stuff, with pretty minimal costs.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Stone?
I had 2 questions. Can you tell me again who the firm was for the architectural design?
Murata Main?
Oh, okay. And my next question is on that $7.5 million. Is that $850,000 part of that $7.5 million?
That's part of the soft cost.
So the maximum is $7.5 million.
Yeah.
Can you,
Ms. Singh?
this is a hard question, so it's fine if you have to pull it later, but Can you give me a sense of how much we have spent on sports adjacent facilities at South over the last like 5 years? Like I know we did the tennis courts, we did the track, like how much have we spent at South on athletic facilities and also at North, you know?
I'd have to get back to you.
Thanks.
Ms. Stone?
I know we have approved this process for the middle school and the Chancellor Center and the elementary school, right? We have 3 projects that are in line.
Yes.
And we'll be looking at those details for how the finance works at the next finance meeting, you know, how long those bonds are gonna take and so on. So we've already established those 3 pieces as being projects that we're gonna move ahead with. So would this change that timeline? That's my first question.
Would not change the timeline. This would run concurrently with the other projects.
Okay. And we really haven't moved forward with our master plan for all the other construction, have we?
We have not.
So we've only established these 3 projects out of some 10 capital.
More than that.
We've established the first projects for the first 5 years. So we do have a 5-year plan. Typically, you would have 10 years.
I would like to look at this in relation to what we already have, what was going to be presented to us at the finance meeting in terms of payment, how this is going to get paid for, and then maybe include this with the master plan for the back end, those back 5 years, where we're going to go, whether because we still haven't figured out the high school. Maureen Welsh is probably a pretty important piece. I don't want to say no here, but I'd like to wait to see all those other numbers before we spend almost $1 million. Anyway, that's kind of what I'm thinking. To put it on the plate when we consider the next phase.
So
I'd like to go back and re-look at our master plan, which we haven't finished.
yeah, that's right. And
And the new people haven't had a chance really to look at those sheets that you're looking at right now that have all those projects that, and I think Maureen Welsh probably is a pretty important one to look at.
And we're gonna look at the capital expenditures at next week's finance committee.
At the finance committee, we're gonna have, right?
We're gonna look at, we have a plan for financing the 3 projects that have been approved for design.
Right.
And how that would, what that would look like over the course of the construction for those projects.
Next week.
Next week, yes, I'm sorry.
Good.
PFM will be here.
Oh, good. TFM is going to be here. The bond agent.
The bond,
Yes.
the company that we use to do our bond issues.
Yes. Other questions, comments? I have a question. These proposals from the architect and the construction management firm, what's the shelf life for those?
I'd have to check my RFP, but it's, I think, 60 days.
60 days. So we do have to make a decision within,
Yeah, if we decide to postpone this till, say, I'm just picking a day, December, we would have to go back out to RFP.
yeah, okay. That's a,
So,
Mr. Green?
so to your comment, we haven't figured out how we're gonna pay for any of this, isn't in the capital expenditures or budget?
No, what we asked,
We would have to do this through a bond issue.
Okay.
And so, adding this, because it had, we don't have a status on the approval of this, it's not in that, but it can easily be added to the plan. And the numbers that we're looking at giving next week are pretty solid for the first year, but not, they're obviously, as things change, they're, you know, and as construction continues, they're going, those numbers, not, they shouldn't change overall, but the timing could change on those. So what we do is when we borrow money for a construction project, we only borrow enough money in each year to cover the cost for that year. So if we're looking at, and they'll go over this in much more detail and say it much better than I can, but we'll look at the costs for the projects that we have, and it could include the stadium, the projects that we have, and say, okay, so the next time that we would like to issue, we'll issue a bond this April. The next time that we would issue a bond would be May of '27. So the bond issue in April will cover the costs from April, basically from December for the 3 projects, possibly this, through the next time we're able to receive bond funding, so that we're never without money, but we're never borrowing more than we need for the next year.
time the.
And that's what, and there's a schedule that they'll give you that'll lay that out for you. As far as what we received a draw schedule from the, and that's another reason why we don't have it, because we don't have a draw schedule on the stadium yet. We won't have that until we give them a contract, but we have a draw schedule on the other 3 projects.
We can request that.
Okay, but we could request that before next week. But we have a draw schedule on the other 3 projects, and so they've planned that out according to how much we need to borrow in each year to cover those costs. And again, timing-wise, that could and probably will change. So we may say we're going to borrow, this isn't a number that's on there, we're going to borrow $20 million next year. It might be end up that for some reason it's only 15, or, you know, and before we plan the next bond issue, we'll get a new draw schedule from the contractors. Does that make sense?
Mr. Roosevelt?
Yeah, hi. I'm interested. The stadium, well, first question, what are the 3 projects that have draw schedules already?
Chancellor Center, Newtown Elementary, and Holland Middle.
Okay. So those are some that this board, along with the stadium, have already provided support to move forward with, which is why we're moving support tonight. So why doesn't the stadium also have a draw schedule?
We don't have a contract with it. We don't have any. So we have a contract with Boyle for those 3 projects. And as they're working on the project, they were able to give us a draw schedule for those projects. We don't have a contract where we can ask for a draw schedule yet.
But that's what effectively this is going to do when we have the next board meeting.
Yes.
Right, okay. So that's great. So the other element here is this project compared to talking about costs, $7.5 million.
Yes.
Is comparable with all of the others, is probably on the low side. right? I mean, this board just
You're
approved.
looking at cost, that this.
At cost, right, cost alone, numbers, bottom line to bottom line. The stadium is probably on the lower end of some of the lowest costs project. The board voted to move forward with Chancellor, which is about, I don't know, what, 18.5 million?
Yes.
Right, so, and then when you compare the impact to both the student body and the surrounding community, this is probably also one on the top end regarding these other projects. The community can use middle schools and space like that, but it doesn't use outdoor facilities as much, right? The community would use the stadium and the turf more if there were stadium seats than, for example, using a room here or there in a middle school or in an elementary school, or Chancellor for that matter. Right?
I can't give you definite usage information. I mean, it does add the number of events being held at like, so if we use North as an example, obviously you have the home football games, and then you have the South football games, right? The South home football games. It would be used for other athletic events, soccer, or whatever it's supposed to call it. I'm not saying anything bad about that, I'm just saying, lacrosse and field hockey, all those events would be in the stadium.
Well, I mean, this is gonna be less than Holland Middle School, this is gonna be less than elementary school, this is gonna be less than Newtown Middle, this is certainly less than Chancellor. This is certainly less than either North and or South. So, is there another project that was on the master plan that's less expensive than this? Maybe that's a more direct question.
No.
Thank you.
Let's see. So when we talk about, and I know there was mention of the first 5 years of the plan. Really, the only other remaining project on the first 5 years of the plan is renovation or anything else.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that we're having a discussion of reverting back to the master plan and looking at how to both pay for this over time, as well as how to conduct it over time and how to get it done over time. That's part of planning, that's part of the master plan, that's what I was advocating for. It would have been interesting, I'm not sure why the scrutiny is coming now, especially after we parted out Chancellor and went ahead with that with less scrutiny, I guess. So I'm happy that there's a voice to return to that. That's it for my questions and comments at the moment.
Yeah, I would comment that I think we've been very deliberate in proceeding with what projects are in the master plan. And, we have a priority list, and we're working that list. And I think we gave a lot of scrutiny, particularly to the Chancellor Center project. I think about a year plus, if not a year and a half, and a lot of discussion and a lot of debate. And I think it was a really productive and healthy debate and discussion that a lot of board members participated in. So I think that was a really good decision-making process. And I'm really personally satisfied with how we reached a decision on Chancellor. It took a lot of discussion, but I think we got to a good decision. And I think we gave, reasonable consideration to Newtown Elementary School, and the same with the Holland Middle School project. And now this project has come forward because we have the proposals from the architects and the construction management company. I do want to point out one thing, which is this facility is already in use. This facility is used heavily by our athletic teams and by which?
Carusa.
Carusa. I wanted to make sure before. It's this facility is used heavily by Crusoe, which pays reasonable fees for its use. So what we're talking about doing is taking a facility with a turf field and fencing and modest bleachers and lighting and adding 3,000 seats and press box and toilet rooms, ticket booth and team rooms. And from my point of view, we are adding it primarily for the use of high school football. And having played high school and a little bit of college football, I love the sport, but I just want to point out that that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about creating a new athletic facility for the use of our teams and the community. We're talking about enhancing an existing facility that's 5 years old, 4 years old, in that range.
5 or 6.
5 or 6, yeah. So I think that's what we're looking at, and that's my point of view. Ms. Osei?
I'm a little uncomfortable with the cost of it. I wish everybody could have, I wish that it was less expensive. I wish that it was less expensive because I do think that there's value in having a stadium for community building, not necessarily for community use, but for community building. And I can certainly see that if I played football for South, it would be really nice to have a stadium there. And I definitely can understand that the students would like it. But it is very expensive and it's not directly impacting education. And I'm not saying that sports don't have value. I know they have tremendous value, but it's not going to impact anyone's education. I wonder if there is a way to make it less expensive. I wonder, do we need 3,000 seats? Could we do just one side of bleachers? Could we do, I don't know, do we need a press box? Like, is there a way to scale it back a little?
We could scale it back. If we move forward with the project, there is conversation that needs to happen with the township to see if we can get some variance on the number of toilet rooms and the proximity to the school with the toilet rooms. So there is a potential for some cost savings, but without having the design process go through and meeting with the township, I cannot guarantee that.
I'm uncomfortable moving forward with this price tag.
Can I had a question about toilet rooms. I think I recall some discussion about the fact that, number one, the toilet rooms are really driven by, of course, necessity and the public's needs, but also by ADA requirements. And the other is that while there has been discussion historically about using the high school restrooms for this purpose, there's a big downside to doing that, as in, having the public streaming into the high school during a football game.
So there is, because where the toilet rooms that we're talking about are located, there is a possibility of making an exterior entrance from the exterior of the building, so they wouldn't have to actually physically go into the building. But again, we have to have those design reviews and those meetings with the township to see what they will allow us to do and not do. The way we have it right now, the pricing is the code requirements. Townships will issue variances if you present a case and they approve it. We've done variances on other buildings, but we don't know what they will require. That's why we have to keep the price where it's at this point.
Thank you. Other questions?
Sure.
Go ahead. Ms. Gunn?
Thank you. I guess I just want to go back a little bit in where we started with the facilities master planning and where this all kind of started. and looking at, the short-term, 5-year and long, the 10-year plan for the district and where we're headed facility-wise, and how we ended up choosing ultimately to move forward in the first 3 projects based upon funds, Newtown Elementary, Cancer Center, and Holland Middle. And I know Ms. Osecki has this big binder beside me that we all have or have some version of, or maybe the new board members will get it if they don't have it already. That kind of is all-encompassing, not only of the summer projects, but also the history of our district and where we are based in terms of facilities. So I want to just reiterate that these initial 3 projects were chosen based upon their priority, based upon their need, age of structure, safety. I guess my point is a need versus a want. As I would kind of echo Ms. Osecki that I would love to provide a stadium for South or for their football team and community use and community building. I guess I'm having a difficult time of $7.5 million. Thinking back, is this something that could potentially be covered under our educational initiatives fund, where it's a one-time cost? And I'm probably, do we have an answer to that?
But we don't have enough money in educational initiatives now, so.
Okay. And I guess, so I think back to when it was turfed in 2021, why, if there was conversation about a stadium then, why it wasn't done. And I keep thinking back to the educational things. We started full-day kindergarten last year, and there was the one-time initial cost, but now it's about $2.5 million annually that we have are paying for through the previous tax increases that we spread out over 2 years. So $7.5 million is a really large sum. Granted, it's the smallest number based upon all the huge capital projects that we have. I'm struggling with that, especially when we haven't had a finance meeting to talk about how we're going to, what bonds we're issuing, how we're going to be paying for these 3 current buildings that house students, or 80, members of our administrative staff that support, everything in the district. So for me, I would have to just get more information. And again, it's more about a want and need and how are we going to pay for this? So at this particular time, I'm not ready to invest 100% right now, $1 million that if we don't move forward with it is lost. And $1 million I'm thinking from educationally, I know there's a couple of educational programs that we don't have funds for. Maybe there will be planned in the budget, but things that are expired through the ESSER funds. Initially I think about the extended summer school year or summer school that we've talked about in the education committee before. That was, I know just off the top of my head, several $100s the district no longer has those funds from the ESSER funds that ended. Nights for Knowledge, which we talked about, all of us at this table as board members, being such a good thing that started and continuing that. I know we paid for a portion of it this year, and CREF paid for a portion. So moving forward, these are things that are going, if the community and for student academic excellence, that we want to support students with these programs, we still have to budget and plan for these in the future. And I know we talked about for Nights for Knowledge, even expanding it to whether it was a longer period of time or including some more math support. So for all of these other questions and budgets and costs that I have kind of swirling around in my head, I'm not fully ready at this particular stage to say, let's spend $850,000 to move to the next stage at this particular moment. It's not a no, but maybe somewhere, as Ms. Stone said, when we get to the 10-year plan, and I know we have Council Rock North and Council Rock South in our 10-year plan, is there something that can be planned so we can plan for it in the future? Thank you.
Mr. Roosevelt. Yeah, as long as we're talking and reminding about things, I just want to state that having an item on the agenda and having the meeting to contribute it doesn't always mean discussion of that length of the board on that agenda item. Additionally, discussion doesn't necessarily include scrutinization of a certain item. And I believe, although I wasn't on the board when this was originally discussed, but the whole rock or turf the rock, I believe, was supposed to include a stadium with turfs for both north and south. And due to costs, there were members on the board that decided to reduce the cost and remove it from south by removing the stadium structure from south. Also remember several board members being uncomfortable with Chancellor. And then the comment was made, well, the longer we wait on this, the more expensive it'll be. So I just find sort of the, how when the shoe's on the other foot, the same statements are being made, but not reflected by the decisions that were made.
So I need to go back and maybe we need to revisit this, because I understand we did the 3, but we really chose 5, I thought, because there was about, what, 270 million? Is that what we went off of when we sat and we went to total, we were 5,
270 million in total projects?
yeah,
Over
400.
Yeah.
400, right?
400.
It was 400 for the 5.
400 total projects.
When we discussed, right?
Which,
I think
which total projects?
that was
the
the,
high schools?
that's
Yeah,
everything,
yes.
everything. If you add it up
Everything.
from the master plan,
But then
everything was
we went-
400.
And then the
270.
270 had to do with the first 5, and that's where we were looking at,
Yes.
correct? That's what we had agreed on for 270, because that's where we were saying, what do we do? What's our maximum finance that we have? That we could look at the 10 to bring them down, to start looking at, to go forward, to bring projects. And one of them was the
Yeah, I mean,
the
there's-
stadium.
There is, so if I look at our,
So
I
not
thought-
understanding where we are right now, that we're struggling with this.
I've talked about this before, and when you look at our debt service, so right now we have about $20,550,000 going to debt service every year. Our current bond payments are between $17 and $18 million. This would be more reflected in the presentation for next week, but we will still have a significant amount of money during the process with these, because of debt coming off the books. We'll have not a significant, but a decent amount of money available for further borrowing on those, on what we're putting into debt service versus what we pay. It won't be enough to cover what's needed in north and south. It would be enough to cover, I believe it would be enough, I can't promise that, but it would be enough to cover Welch Elementary. But this is not putting us in danger of of exceeding our debt limit. Any of the current projects that were, of the 3 projects and then the stadium, we're not, I want to say this carefully, we're not in danger of needing to raise taxes for these projects, if that makes sense, for any of these projects.
And then Dr. Sanko, can you help me out with the fields? So we've got North, and right now, it's not just football. There's other sports. We have band that does a lot of activities, right? We have cheer, we have, color guard. There's all these other,
Yeah, and that's true at both high schools.
right?
We have the turf field at both high schools. The difference is that we do not have the stadium at South, we have the stadium at North. But they are used, as Tony said earlier, Cruza uses fields. Both those turf fields, we partner with the community, with Cruza and Rock Softball, along with other people that rent it out. And those monies that we earn from the modest rent, that goes towards, it gets earmarked and saved for when we have to talk about replacing the turf, and the numbers are loose, but, and Jess will know these numbers and timelines better than I, but the turf lasts about 8 to 10 years and it has to be replaced, and I think our last spend at North was north of $1 million to put new turf down. So, but they are highly used, they're highly used fields, just like our gyms in all of our schools.
And then band, when they have their tournaments, they use them at North though, because
They
there's
do.
nothing at South to provide for them either.
They do.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
As we're kind of delving into finance, which normally is a companion with this meeting, and as we've kind of started talking about finance, Mr. Rapp, isn't there another way to finance the South Stadium without necessarily going full bond? I mean, $7.5 million
I mean,
for a way to sort of address it in our budget perhaps, or over time, or look at other alternative ways of funding. Does it have to include a bond for the full amount?
no, we have a healthy fund balance in our capital reserve fund. My caution with that is that we use $6 million of that every year for our summer projects. I wouldn't want to spend, I think we're at about $20 million in that fund. And that's, we usually move money in there from the excessive fund balance. Looking at financial projections for this year, right now our projection, and this is more for February, but our financial projection for this fiscal year is pretty close to budget. As far as we're right now, that's where it is. Whether that improves or not, I hope. Again, it's a real guess as to where it eventually ends up. But I don't know that we're going to have any money to move into that this year. This could be paid out of the general fund. This portion of it could be paid out of the general fund. And then when there's another thing they would talk about this, they'll talk about this next week, is where we could pay for this part of the project out of the general fund. And then if the project moves on and we borrow money for it, you could do what's called a reimbursement resolution, where you say that you're going to use future bond revenue to pay back the general fund for the cost of the architect and the construction manager. So that exists as well as an option. None of them are great options. I'm not just to say great. I mean, the one with the general fund is fine. I would hope that the project would continue and we would pay it back eventually, but we can take a portion of, if we could reduce it, I'd have to do some analysis on it and see where we're looking at money-wise in our capital reserve, and maybe we could pull a certain amount out of the capital reserve fund to pay for part of this and reduce the amount that would need to be borrowed for this project. Like I said before, I would not want to put the entire project in the capital reserve fund. That would deplete it much faster than I think I as your business administrator would be comfortable with.
Okay.
So those are some thoughts on other ways that we can do it. I would say that as far as the educational initiatives, we don't have, we did at the end of last year, which will be in the financial statement, we did reduce that fund for, and move some more money over into capital reserve for future plans, but we still have about $3.5 million in that fund. But I don't know that I would say that this is a good use of of that fund. It's, we know what a stadium does, so we're not trying something new or a new educational initiative.
That makes sense. Does that answer your question, Mr. Roosevelt?
It does, thank you.
Fine.
I guess regarding if we did approve the phase 2 of the design, is there an expiration date of the design? Let's say we did that phase, but then maybe we didn't move right into construction because we still have some questions about finances or funding or paying for it that we didn't, let's say, maybe it's another year or 2 years or whatever it is.
So the only thing that would change would be the construction management portion of this, the construction manager and the architect. So if you remember, both the contracts have design and then construction management. So say we designed it in February 2027, we say, hey, we're gonna hold off until February 2029. When we pick that back up, we would have to have revised costs for the construction management portion of the project. We'd also have to make sure we reevaluate that, make sure that everything meets the most current codes. So there, and like Mr. Roosevelt said, construction always increases, so that there would be an adjustment, potential adjustment to the overall budget based on where we are in the world, cost-wise. Is that, yeah?
It did answer
Okay.
it right, thank you.
Okay, so we have to just, let's go second.
Sorry, could you get us, Ms. Binda, attendance numbers for like last 5 years? Is that possible to pull?
Attendance from.
Like football attendance at, like, I'm curious, like, do we need, like, is attendance increasing? Is attendance decreasing? Do we fill all the seats? Is there anything like
Yeah,
that?
the only way we would be able to do that if we did a completely online ticket sale program, we would know.
Okay, we have to decide tonight if this goes on the agenda for the 22nd.
Can I add?
Please, Mr. Rapp.
We do also, I would just bring up that, I don't know how much this would recover for us, but we do have a naming rights policy.
Oh, yeah.
So you would decide, we would take applications, I guess, for naming rights, and we would receive, basically the policy says we would receive we would review the market for naming rights, and that's what we would charge for those naming rights.
Good, thanks. Ms. Khan?
Actually, piggybacking off what Mr. Rapp had stated, I know, for example, as Chancellor Center, we spent over 6 months writing a grant that we thought we maybe had a chance and ended up not working out. And I know having talked about the stadium previously, board members had talked about fundraising and or grant writing. Is there any, have we looked?
Sorry, just for the audio, if you don't mind keeping it down.
Sorry. Yes.
So many of you received communication this week about public school grant from the DCED. Jess and I are looking into that as a possible, I think our thought process on that grant is every one of these projects we throw in we throw an application in for that grant. It's a maximum of $5 million per project. So obviously, but whatever we can recover, and you have to be so something like the stadium, though it is a matching program. So for a $7.5 million project, we could only $3.75 million is all we could put in for that project. But yes.
Every penny counts.
Yes.
That's what we said about the Chancellor Center, right?
Yeah, well, Chancellor Center is the only one that I don't know. I don't think that we would be able to apply for.
No, I'm saying that's
But
just like
we
that
would-
process, like
We
it's
would apply
something
for
that's
that
better
grant
than.
separately for each, for the stadium, for the Newtown Elementary and Holland Middle. We would apply for, and so like you look at Newtown Elementary, we would apply for the full $5 million for that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Easily.
Thank you, Mr. Rapp. Okay, Mr. Hidalgo.
Thank you. So phase 2 of the 2 What was the cost for the two that we're trying to approve today?
Architectural is 540,000 and construction management is 313,700.
Now, that's the budget. We won't automatically commit to all of that, or do you think that's gonna get eaten up if we say yes?
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay, you're committing, if you say yes, you're committing to the design portion of those costs, which is roughly 70% for design and probably 45% for construction management.
Okay, so, you know, a little history too, when we were considering this back in the day, we looked at a big plan where at the south track football field is where we originally were looking at a full stadium there. Ironically, the price that we're saying to put the bleachers in on the top of what's already been spent, a couple $1 million, that's what for $7 million back then, we could have gotten a full stadium with the track redone. I don't know what exactly, but it was around that spot. So I'm saying, you know, cost of inflation is definitely going up. So then you ask yourself, and we all have to ask ourselves a question, is does the community want a full stadium at South? Okay, in general, you gotta maybe talk and ask around, because not everybody's gonna say they want a stadium. Some people do. I mean, for me, I don't look at North and South as two separate school districts. And I hear people say, and this is just my opinion, you know, that, you know, it's the only high school without a stadium, but South has a stadium. It's Walter, you know, Snyder Stadium. That's Council Rock Stadium since I've been here, since I've been, you know, born. Even though I'm from the Chamonix, I mean, I do like the stadium. I think there's some tradition to having football where it is, and I think there's people that do want the own stadium at South. I actually kind of fear that things won't be as good if we put a stadium where it is. You know, I don't know I want to see what those bleachers are going to look like and what the look and feel is going to be. Ask the students what they feel, you know, prior, especially maybe alumni, and how they felt about it. Because I don't feel like it's a redheaded stepchild. That's only my opinion. There's people that definitely want a stadium at South. So what we have to determine is if we are going to do it, then it's that whole wait and look, and how much more is it going to cost down the road. And if we're being told that it fits within the budget that we have now for the financing, then we should seriously consider it. But my point being is this what the community wants? And the price tag is the price tag. It's not, it shocks you when you first look at it, but we're spending a lot of money. We're gonna be spending a lot of money on capital improvements coming forward, especially when you look at the high school at the north is gonna require either a major renovation or a whole new high school. And we're talking, you know, you're gonna have to put that out to, you know, vote. The community's gonna have to vote on whether or not to raise the taxes to pay for something like that, would be my opinion, in the next 5 years. So my point being that, you know, I don't think that's, you know, I like the situation the way it is now. It's me, the way I like South playing and alternating until somebody says that there's a problem with it. I don't think anybody's complaining except for South doesn't have a stadium. If I was gonna do a stadium, I'd want it around the track, not up against the high school, you know? And so should we have just done it all in the beginning? Probably. So will we be second guessing for not doing it now? I just said $7 million all of a sudden is not a lot of money. It's wrong. No, but I'm saying compared to the grand scheme of things and the way inflation's going. So I just would like to get more feedback from the community, but to spend the money on the design, 70%, probably about $500,000-$600,000, are we gonna eventually put a stadium there? If that's where we're going, then we should go forward with it.
Thank you, Mr. Hidalgo. I suggest we revisit this at next month's facilities committee meeting. If there's no objection, we'll hold this over for next month for further discussion.
Well, then, if we are potentially gonna move it, I mean, I think Mr. Hidalgo brings up a good point of, we've gotten community feedback for other initiatives, right? I don't know if there's a way to do this as well. Now knowing, as far as that we've progressed in this process, that now we know there's a price tag, it's gonna be $7.5 million or whatever it is, 7.45 to 7.6, that's the price. And it's gonna cost $853,000 for the next phase of design. Is this something that is wanted and needed? And I guess I don't know, for me, I also really appreciated Mr. Hidalgo's point of, we do have one school district, it's not separate. I know there's 2 football teams, and I will just put it out there that I don't know why has there ever been historically any talk about having one team? I'm just putting it out there, I'm not saying I'm supporting it, I just have never heard the conversation before, and I don't know, and I know there's public behind me, I'm sure, when it comes to public comment, they can give me historical information. I'm not even saying at this point, we're talking about all the things, right? In every scenario that we're talking about spending, our tax dollars and talking about our students of 10,500, that I want to just make sure that we've discussed every possibility and that we're making these decisions, to the best of our ability with all the information and all the pieces that we have, at least personally for me. That's how I want to make these decisions. So that's what I'll say.
So how do we gather information? And then
I think
process it.
I think we're gonna get some input tonight. And I think this discussion is no doubt gonna prompt some feedback from the community as well. I mean, I'm anticipating a lot of voices.
Can't we do a survey?
Yeah, and is there any way to find out?
Did we do a survey for Chancellor?
I mean, it's not exactly the same thing.
Don't combine the teams, there's a survey.
I think it would be valuable to do a community survey. I think that, like Mr. Hidalgo said, some people would want it and some people would say, no.
Want my point of view?
Talk about it next week.
Well, I'd like to do it, and if we're gonna do it, this bid is good for 60 days or whatever, so we don't have that much time.
My personal point of view, not as facilities co-chair, is I think we were elected to make these decisions, and I think surveys of the community ought to be done selectively. And I wouldn't favor doing a survey for the stadium. Mr. Roosevelt brought up, did we do a survey for Chancellor? I mean, we're gonna have a lot of tough decisions. That's my personal point of view. So,
Well, we did say if we wait till next month, I think though, we should make sure everyone has information and look back at the master plan so we have a big picture. And then next week, we have a presentation so we can see how the money is going to flow. So that's giving us more data to work with.
okay.
So what happens when we push it off over a month?
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
She said, what happens if we push it off a month? I'll reach out to Boyle and Murata, Maine, and make sure that they understand that it's not going to the board this month, and it'll be pushed to next month, and just verify that they're okay with holding their price, and they understand that we're going to move it to the following month.
Thank you.
What date is that?
We'll get that. Are we good?
What's the next thing?
Uh,
The next facilities meeting is February 5th.
February
February
5th.
5th.
Okay.
I don't want facilities on a Friday.
Good, that was a good discussion. Thank you, everyone. I think we're concluded for tonight on the
No future.
stadium issue. So,
Stadium.
no, hold on. After we finish the agenda, then we have public comment. Promise.
So the upcoming items is stadium.
All right.
That's it?
And the master plan?
Yes. So, okay, so can we briefly, I know that's not on the agenda, but let's briefly talk.
Yeah, please.
What do you, I can bring Schrader Group back and, we can continue the conversation. Is there any requests, directions, asks? I don't want to bring them back and, not give them direction on where to go. I don't want to waste our time with, do we want a rehash meeting? Do we want rehash and then moving forward?
See, I think when we talk about the master plan and where you were with the master plan, there was decisions to be made at that point regarding these projects and then eventually other projects. And the board didn't want to move forward without getting more information. So as far as the rest of the master plan is concerned, I don't know how much more information we're going to be able to provide to you that's relevant at this point. The numbers that we gave you for the projects, basically, after the three that you've approved and then the one that we're talking about tonight, there's basically 3 other projects in that master plan. But we still have, you still have other decisions to make as far as when this building's done, what do we do with, correct, I've just been corrected, we do have a major problem that needs to be dealt with, is Wrightstown.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
And, but, which we need to deal with that, but, we
Sorry, I'm
yeah.
derailed you, sorry.
That's okay. So, but I don't know how much more information we can give you as far as a master plan beyond 5 years to say, because we have, but other issues. What do we do with Richboro Middle? Because we can't have that building sit. Like, a decision is going to need to be made with what goes on with that building after this building's done and the administration moves out. That building's outlived its usefulness for a lot of reasons. However, that's another community-based building, a building that is used heavily by the community. That gym is very much a hot commodity in that area. So there's other decisions that need to be made, and we kind of lost our way with the master plan not lost our way, but when we moved into getting prices for these projects and deciding that we're going to move forward with these projects now that we have. But I'm just going to say that I think the board needs to look at some of this stuff from a perspective of what do we need to do and make a decision on doing it, and then we plan for that appropriately. And that's not, I'm sorry if I'm stepping out of place by saying that, but that's what I think the board needs, that's what needs to happen is what are your priorities and what do you want to do with these situations? Twining Ford is another one where that building is in great shape, and we're doing as summer projects what we can to take care of that. But at some point that's going to need some heavier work. So I guess I'm just asking that if we want to start talking about the master plan again, I think some decisions are gonna need to be made as far as what do you wanna do as a board moving ahead with those things. So I'm sorry if I'm out of line.
No, that's very helpful. Thank you, Mr. Rath. Ms. Stone.
So I was just saying that if we do go over the master plan, I just mean to make sure that we all have this information again, these spreadsheets, so that we can, and especially that our new members get familiar with some of that, and that we can sit down and say, okay, this is our next priority, these are our next 3 priorities, and then, figure out the timeline on those. And you're right, we are gonna have to discuss Twining and Richboro Middle School, but we first have to get administration in there and then out of there, so, right.
Okay. Ms. Khan?
I think, Mr. Rapp, you kind of said what we can put on the agenda, right? I think we need to have a little bit of a recap, just because it's been since May when we took a little bit of a side road to start bidding and looking at the phases for these 3 upcoming projects, to go back, and I know Mr. Roosevelt talked about, to kind of go back and just recap, lay out those decisions, Mr. Rapp, that we need as a board to make, and then we can bring the new board members and bring them into the conversation, and then really kind of have that discussion of what are the next wants and needs. I know personally for me, when we started all of this, that Wrightstown space issue has not gone away, and it will never go away on its own. And I know that's a priority for all of us. And then I know that Marina Welch is definitely the next, based upon its needs, that serves our students on there. So personally for me, those are the next conversations. And then long-term, when we talked about this master planning, we also wanted to think long-term. So when it's after the 5 years and we're done with these next 3 to 4 projects, that we're looking at, wow, we have Council Rock North. Like, what are our options again? How are we gonna pay for it at this point, right? To even just start that conversation. It's not a conversation we're gonna have answers in a few months anyways, but just knowing that's part of the plan. Like in year 10 or wherever it lands in the timeline, we need to start really thinking about this.
I agree. I think it would be good to refresh everybody's memory and take a fresh look. And to your question about inviting Schrader and Dewey back, I don't think that's necessary at this point. Does anybody disagree?
I don't disagree.
Okay. Joe?
I also suggest going back and looking at the presentations on YouTube.
Yeah, we all can do that on our own time. I agree. It's a good idea. Real good suggestion. Thank you. Okay. Alrighty then. What? Yeah, public comment, we will. All right. Are you concluded for tonight?
Concluded for tonight.
All right. Now we're at public comment, and we'll go, how many people do we have? 1, 2. All right, gentlemen, just give us your name, please, and then municipality where you reside. And pardon me? We'll start with the gentleman on the right, and we try to stick to 3 minutes, please.
Zachary Morris, Northampton. So, with the football field, would the turf be natural or would it be artificial? Because that is a huge difference between the price and the cost of the football field in general.
It would remain artificial. It would be the current field.
Yeah, we're not redoing the turf. This is just the bleachers.
Well, you could consider using natural turf because that would be much more cost efficient than the short term. It would be harder to keep up with it, but you could implement artificial turf as time goes by. If you want to build a stadium at the moment as fast as possible, cheap as possible, I would recommend using natural turf.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Okay. Anything else? All right, thank you.
No, I was just gonna follow up on that at some point in the future.
Yeah, and your name and.
Oh, I'm sorry,
yeah,
Colin Banker Morris, Northampton Township. Because one of the reasons is besides the fact that over a 10-year period, natural grass is cheaper. I'm speaking on transitioning, not getting rid of what you already have. It's also safer. When you look at natural turf, one scientific fact is that if it's a 90-degree day and you're playing football on it, that turf makes it 115 degrees, or maybe I'm over-exaggerating, it could be 105 degrees. There's the injury called turf toe, that doesn't happen on natural grass. Turf burns, that doesn't happen on natural grass. And I would say down the line, that would be something to look into. And in all honesty, if you watch even NFL documentaries on it, if anybody here is an Eagles fan, remember Veterans Stadium, you know, artificial turf is absolutely atrocious. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. I'm sorry?
I'll wait.
Oh, yeah.
My name is Joe Caldwell from Birmingham Township. I've been in the township for 20 years. My 3 sons went to Township on South. We moved up here in 1997, and when talk of the new high school was coming around, there was excitement in the community. There was an expectation from the community that we're getting a new high school, right? Which includes everything that comes with the new high school. I think someone mentioned it before. I think we're the only high school in the entire area without a student. It's a little tiresome, right? Again, I agree that there needs to be the emphasis on education. There's plenty of money. There's money for that. There's money for the state. There's money that go around in funding, right? So the expectation, really, we talk about a need or a want. In my opinion, it's a miss. Whoever, I don't know if anybody here was on the board back then, but it was a miss. Whoever made that decision, whatever group of people made that decision to say, hey, we're gonna cut out the stadium, we're gonna cut out the swimming pool. It was a miss. The community deserved it, the kids deserved it. Now's an opportunity to make that right. So I'm saying to you guys here, make it right. Give them the stadium, fund it, it's not cheap, but it was a lot cheaper 22 years ago, what should have happened. So my only point there is, for the current generations, you know, kids coming from now, we're probably gonna maybe the freshmen make an opportunity to use it, right? But going forward, for the student body and the community, do the right thing here. Do the right thing that should have been done 22 years ago. And to your point, really, again, my kids went through South, my grandson's going through now. They are 2 separate schools. Okay, South is not North, North is not South. The Wall Snyder Stadium is North Stadium that South gets to use once in a while. And that's the way they, this, again, in my opinion, the way they look at it, the way the kids look at it. And I think, again, just do the right thing for the kids and the community. That's all.
Thank you. Ma'am, did you wish to?
Hi, Edie Mary, North Canton Township. I can't talk about one thing, but you have longer to say it. So I am a member of the Churchville Elementary School PTO board. So I was very happy to see our shade structure up on there. I can't iterate enough how disappointed our community was that that did not happen last year. So I am very hopeful that this is actually going to get put in this summer. I would strongly encourage the board to look into that for every school. On a hot day, it is really, these kids, I've seen kids literally laying under benches to look for shade. And that, it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't take the PTO meeting to fund that, but we will because we believe our students deserve it. I think all the students deserve it, at all the schools. So seriously consider looking into that moving forward. Another thing I've been wondering, why does Holland Middle School not have the name of the school on its building?
Name of the school where?
Every other
On the
school done in the
building.
district over the years has Richburg, Newtown. Holland Middle School has no name on its building.
Is that the case?
The name's on the front of it between,
Not that I've seen.
have you gone between the schools?
I'll look again, but I've been there a lot and I have not seen it. So if I'm wrong, I apologize.
As you're driving into the loop,
Yes.
the first set of double doors, glass doors, if you're going through the car rider line,
Yeah,
look above those double doors and to your left a little bit.
okay.
Yeah.
So the same way I would see it driving by Newtown, the way they have it on their building? I'll be there again next week.
All right.
Then regarding the stadium, I have a few thoughts. I am very supportive of the stadium being built over at South. I think there's many activities that take place there, not just football. I think it would bring parity across the district. I do think that, I agree. I don't view it, I view it as one school district, but two high schools. And so I do think the kids at both high schools deserve a stadium. The community deserves it. And even just being able to walk to your stadium versus having to be driven across the bypass to get over there, I think that makes a difference. I am curious, I'm not familiar with the board's procurement policies. So I am curious, I saw you said you whittled it down to 2. How do you determine from those 2? Do you have a price and other factors for technical versus price proposals? How did you determine your final selection as far as architecture and construction management? And then I'm also curious why you feel the need to move forward with construction management now versus when you are ready to hire a general contractor to build the stadium.
That's a lot of questions. You want to do it after the meeting or a phone call tomorrow, or what do you want to do?
Whatever guidance.
I'm happy to have
Can you talk right after the meeting?
Yeah.
Great, all right. And you wanted to comment too,
Yeah, I
right?
just wanted to say, my name is Kevin Grant, Northampton, Churchville. My kids go to Marine Welch, and fully, I understand the budget and educationally wise, both my boys suffer from dyslexia. One's in middle school, my son's at Marine Welch, and my daughter's at South. When it comes to football, we were saying, can we have one team? There's only 11 kids that play on the football field at a time, and there's already 100 kids standing on the sideline not doing anything. So one team is not sufficient. I'm coaching Northampton Indians, PB football, and we are, we're just like pushing these kids and athletics and, all these things, and, just trying to mentor them and stuff. And having a stadium there at South would be tremendously amazing. And I believe everybody that I know in my organization agrees. I can't believe it, not all of them showed up tonight, but I did, put a blast. But other than that, yeah, that's all I got. I'm sorry.
No, thank you for speaking. All right, Mr. Hickey.
Sure. Bob Hickey, Northampton Township. A lot of you have heard my arguments before, and I'm going to go through them again, though, especially for the new board members. You're going to hear in the near future about everything that we do. We compare ourselves to other districts, other schools. For example, we had PSSA scores we talked about last month, and how Council Rock did compare to the rest of Bucks County and the state of Pennsylvania and everybody else. We also did it with, when we started our conversation about full-day kindergarten, the very first argument was 87% of the schools in the state of Pennsylvania have full-day kindergarten, why don't we? To compare it to a stadium, Council Rock is the only public school in Bucks County, and possibly even beyond that, that does not have a stadium. Contrary to Mr. Hidalgo's argument, and some of this I will bounce around because I'd like to refute some of the things or counter some of the things that were said tonight. Central Bucks, to the next district over from us, has 3 high schools, and they all have their own stadium. They're not one school district. It's one school district, but it's 3 separate schools, and they all have their own stadiums. Which also brings me to another point. When you talk about paying, I don't know, Walt Snyder Stadium is named Walt Snyder Stadium because 2 people donated up $100,000 apiece to have the rights to name that stadium Walt Snyder Stadium. At Central Bucks East, it's named Colby Umbrell Stadium, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce his name because it's a soldier that has passed. The field is named after him, someone put up the money to have this. There are ways to raise money. There are naming rights. We have 2 fallen heroes in our own township that we could easily name that field after. Look at what New Hope did. New Hope just built a $2.5 million stadium. They got funding from Asplin. They got funding from the people. They put out a GoFundMe. They have bricks on the ground that have all the people who donated. There's ways to raise that money even after we commit to it to lower the cost of it. It's not necessarily going to cost $7 million. All those funds can get raised. But the bigger point is, where's the parity within the district? At what point in time is the southern end of the district going to be treated the same way as the northern end of the district? This has been going on for 25 years since that school was built. Now, I agree, can you put in a pool? No. But as Mr. Roosevelt pointed out, this is the least expensive capital project that has the most good. We just committed, or we're on our way to committing $20 million to a building that services 75 people. And when you talk about needs versus wants, as some have mentioned here, we needed 7, we wanted 20, and we went for 20. So you really can't use the argument that your needs versus wants. And like I said, we spent $20 million for something that services 75 people in the district. Is it important and necessary? Yes, it is, but at a cost of $20 million, I don't know. That South Stadium services over 2,000 people between your student body, your staff, your administrators, and all the other people who work there, in addition to an entire community, including the Northampton Indians football program, which directly feeds into that South football program. But it's not just football that stadium's used for. Dr. Sanko had to make an argument the other day about the graduation somebody brought up the point, oh, we're gonna have to have our graduation at Council Rock North, and people were questioning about it. He had to address it. But South has to have their graduations inside because they can't have them outside. They have to get tickets. Parents have to choose which one of their siblings are allowed to attend graduation because you only get 4, or you get thrown into another room. You don't get to sit in the stadium and watch your son or your grandson or your sibling graduate. I know, I've been through it. When you say they don't mind traveling to the stadium, Joe, and I'm just gonna use it for my own personal viewpoint, I had 5 boys that played football at Council Rock South for 14 years consecutively. And I could bring them all in, and they could tell you how much they hated driving from South to North on Friday nights to play their game. It wasn't their home, Joe. And when they played at North, it wasn't their home. It's not their home. And it's not just used for football. It's used for graduation. You have things like Special Olympics that could be used there. There's other activities that go on besides football. It's been 25 years. And to delay, this is what they did with Turf the Rocks. They had a program called Turf the Rocks, not Rock, Rocks. It was going to be, let's turf North and South at the same time. What happened? What did they do? They turfed North. Oh, South, you're gonna have to wait, and wait, and wait. North actually got a second turf before South got their first one. At what point in time does the southern end of the district get what they deserve as far as parity is concerned? Like I said, there's ways to fund it. And this is a decision that you need to make now. Because if you don't, it's never even gotten to this point now as far as the stadium's concerned at South. So if you delay it, let's put it off to next year, you know what's gonna happen? Oh, wait, we have to redo North. We have this project, we have this project, we have this project. And you know what's gonna happen? It's going to get put on the back burner again. And like I said, so South is either a part of this district on equal footing as North, or it's not. And this is a decision that you can make, and I've been arguing this now. I've tried to make this point. For the new members who don't know, hopefully you'll take what I have to say. Like I said, we've waited 25 years for this, to get to this point, and now it's here. Make it now. Don't delay. We didn't delay on other decisions. You have all the information you want, like you said, Ms. Binder pointed out. There's no use in bringing these people back. You know what the cost is, you know what it's going to cost. Either move forward with it or not, as opposed to just saying, but like I said, if you want parity within the district, fine. And like I said, I could counter every argument or discussion that people said to delay needs versus wants were different things. But like I said, I think it's going to be a huge mistake and something that will never get addressed if you don't make a decision on this now to move forward with the project that the southern end of the district so long deserves as it relates to parity within the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hickey. I think everybody's had a chance to speak, so I believe we're adjourned. Thank you.